we'll understand that how the government organs are actually working. So, functional part is there in administrative law, whereas the theoretical part is there in the constitutional law. Now, this constitutional law, what we can say, is dealing with the general principles relating to the organization, powers of the organs of the state and their mutual relationship. Whereas administrative law deals with the organization, function, powers, and duties of the administration authorities. In the sense that general things are coming in constitutional law, specific only regarding the administration comes in the administrative law. We have studied how the executive department of the central government is, how the executive department of the state government is, then the how this panchayat raj system is working. All these executive part of the government we have studied, but specifically what are the procedural rules, principles to be followed before these institutions we can study in administrative law. We can say that constitutional law deals with the fundamentals, whereas administrative law deals with the details. So we can say that constitutional law deals with the rights, but administrative law emphasizes on public need. Means when the theory comes in practice, that time what are the problems? Okay, that time what are the difficulties for the people? That will be understood and that study is made and solutions are tried to given in the administrative law. Now, there are certain watershed areas. If we look at this diagram, this one circle is administrative law and another circle is constitutional law, but we observe some watershed area, means common area, which includes Article 32, 226, 227, 136. Okay, then 300, 311, study of administrative agencies or special leave to appeal. Okay, then public service, interstate council, etc. All these kinds of things, what we have already studied in Constitution, we will study it in administrative law. In the sense that administrative law gives us more detail about these aspects. It's not that we have not studied 32, 226, 27, 136. Yes, we studied. But indeed, in administrative law, we will study its practical aspects. So there are some common areas of study between the constitutional law and the administrative law in India. Now, we can see that in France, there is a concept what we will study as a discussion of the constitutional law and the administrative law. Thing is that droit administrative. This is the actually term which is used in France regarding the administrative authority in France. Now, this droit administrative can be defined as a body of rules which determines that the organization and duties of the public administration and which regulates the relation of administration with the citizens of the state. See, it is in the France this concept comes first because in England, though our maximum laws are based on England, the English philosophers have not readily accepted the concept of administrative law. They say there is no requirement of a separate administrative law because it is a part of constitutional according to them. But the philosophers in France as well as in America, they think that administrative law is a separate branch of law and which need to be studied in detail because in a democratic nation, the government is working for the people, but how the government should work, what are their responsibility towards the public, everything in detail, best way has to be studied. And that's why in France, this type of concept of administrative authority came first and they called it as droit administrative. And they said it is nothing but a body of rules separately which made for the public administration. Okay. Now, this concept when came, it was related to the great Napoleon Bonaparte and also it has developed because of the revolution of 1789 in France, when there was a struggle for the power between traditionalist, Bonapartist and reformist parliament was going on. There were two groups of the people in France, one following the Bonaparte, another traditional people, and some of them were also from the group of the people who wanted some reforms in the parliamentary system. So during this revolution, what we can say, during the struggle between these three, revolution of 1789 took place, and after that revolution, power of executive curtailed according to the theory of separation of powers. It was thought that all the power of administration of a nation should not be concentrated in one hand. ನ್ಯಾಯಾಂಗ, ಶಾಸಕಾಂಗ ಮತ್ತು ಕಾರ್ಯಾಂಗ, ಈ ಮೂರು ವಿಭಾಗಗಳು ಅದಾವ್ರಿ ಸರ್ಕಾರಕ್ಕೆ. ಅದು ಎಲ್ಲ ಸೇರಿ ಒಬ್ಬರು ಒಳಗಡೆನೆ ಹಾಕ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಕಾಸ್ ಲಾಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್. ಅಂಡ್ ದಟ್ಸ್ ವೈ this revolution resulted into bringing theory of separation of power in France. Napoleon became the first consul, favored freedom for administration and reform. He was the first person in France who said that we wanted to bring the real democracy for which freedom is required for administration. And certain reforms are required in the traditional way of administration in France. Hence, in 1799, Council d'Etat established to resolve difficulties which might occur in the course of administration. So, they have established one body called as Council d'Etat. Like today we have in India administrative tribunals. Like that, they have established this council, and the main objective of that Council d'Etat was to have or to resolve the difficulties in the working of the administration. It also started exercising judicial powers in the matters involving administration. So if administrative related problem comes, then it started dealing with it. For example, regarding the appointment of the government employee, regarding their dismissal, regarding their compulsory retirement, regarding their promotion, salary, this and that, lot of problems will be there. Now at that time, one has to, what we can say, one has to decide whether this particular what we can say, whether a particular person is having that, but whether the particular person is having the resources to, or we can say the feasibility to go to that particular thing and get resolved his or her difficulties. Okay, so please check, someone audio is working, it seems. I cannot move it on here because it will waste my lot of time. So we'll continue with this continuation of Dryad administrative. See, whatever spellings I have mentioned there, they are correct. They are spelled like that only. So please see it in correct way. This Dryad administrative is consisting of rules developed by the judges of the administration courts in France. These are the laws developed by the judges of France, and it includes first rules dealing with the administrative authorities and the officials, like as I said, appointment rules, regulations, dismissal, then status, their salary, their promotion. Okay, all these problems related to the government service comes there. Then comes the second thing is that it includes rules dealing with the operation of public services to meet the needs of the citizens. Like it assists private agency to provide public utility services. So it requires, it deals with the different rules which are related to or regarding the various public utility services. So various public services, for example, transportation might be there, communication might be there. So regarding that, rule making system is there in Dryad administrative. It also deals with the administrative adjudication, for example, injury to private citizen by the administration. Okay, while dealing with the administrative matter by the administrative courts. Okay, So Council d'Etat was the highest court in France. Okay, and it is still there, so it is written as is. It is the highest court of administration. See, this court will be dealing with only administrative issues and no more civil or criminal issues, that we have to remember. But in India, for such adjudications, we name as the tribunals, not the court. Okay. And as there is no application of a code like the criminal procedure code or civil procedure code, but the Dryad administrative in England, in France, developed their own procedures in the form of different principles or doctrines. So same is here in also in India, as the CPC and CRPC, which is applicable to the civil courts and criminal courts in India, are not applicable to the administrative tribunal. The administrative tribunal is also doing the similar work like what the Dryad administrative is doing or Council d'Etat is doing in France. And here also we have developed the principles as to the procedure of working of tribunals. Okay. The difficulties before the administration, everything in the form of a subject called as administrative law. Now, what are the characteristics of this Dryad administrative? The one characteristic is that matters concerning state and administrative litigation are decided by the courts, not by the ordinary courts. In the sense that if the matter is relating to the government and the government employee, okay, then it will not be decided by the courts. It will be not decided by the civil courts or high court or like criminal courts and all, but it will be decided by the Dryad administrative in the Council d'Etat. Second is the development of special rules for the administrative courts. They have developed their own set of rules and regulation how this administrative court will work. And then third, in case of conflict of jurisdiction between the ordinary courts and the administrative courts will be decided by the tribunals. The sense that suppose if there is a contradiction takes place about the ordinary courts and the administrative courts, it is the tribunal which has been specially constituted there, they used to decide. Then protect government officers from control of ordinary courts, in the sense that these government employee for their problem need not to go to the normal courts, because we know if a person goes to the normal court, already those courts are overburdened and there will be delay in the discharging of their cases. Hence, a separate court was established. Okay. Then, Dryad administrative developed by a historical process, means it has been not developed by one day procedure. It was developed by, as we have seen, there took a struggle between the traditionalists, Napoleon Bonaparte and all. So it is the result of this revolution in France. Now, when there are some good things of the Dryad administration, the same is also criticized by some of the philosophers as Dryad administrative can't protect the private citizens from the excess of administration. They criticize that because of these rules which are there in the Dryad administrative, okay, by that particular rules, there is no protection of the private citizens are taking place according to them. But thing is that, okay, there may not be direct protection by the, what we say, direct protection of the people by that particular way, but there is an indirect procedure how the people can be rescued under the administrative law too. But as I mentioned in the second, in practice it is observed as very, very helpful, because in administrative law later, after the first unit, you will understand when we start about the principles of natural justice, like if there is a dispute between a student and a teacher, or if there is a dispute between a employer and employee in the educational institutions and all, we cannot take that matter to the labor court, we cannot take that matter to the normal civil courts, but we have to go to the tribunal. So in that manner, administrative tribunal is also helpful in solving many of the disputes. And if we take all these disputes to the normal courts, then it will become difficult to these courts to run, because they will be overburdened. Okay. So, Dryad administrative is a concept which will be asked in your examination as one of the shortmost. Athwa they may say what is a administrative law and explain with special reference to the Dryad administrative. Or they will ask you the question ki what is administrative law and differentiate it with the constitutional law. So at that time you have to give these points of differences also. Okay, so what is Dryad administrative and how the constitutional law and the administrative law is different, that I have mentioned in these slides. So do you have any doubts in these 3-4 slides? Yes, Anita?
No, ma'am. It's clear.
Fine. So let us move on to the next topic of today's discussion. As we say that, as and how the democratic pattern of government started throughout the world in different nations, that resulted into bringing the administrative law, because the government's role had changed from policing to the welfare. Because the government is welfare government, they have to do a lot of work, and that's why a lot of departments were established. Each department is again flooded with the so many employees of first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, like that. So because of which it was become mandatory for the rule making or the government to make a separate set of rules for these. That's why if you go to any of the employer concern, if you go to a big factory, even for them also there will be a separate set of rules as to the management of inside, what we can say, people who are working there. We say it's a indoor management. So when a lot of indoor administration is required, similarly in government offices also its administration is very very important, because if people who are working in the administrative department of the government are working efficiently, then only we can say resultingly the government will work efficient. Now we say during this pandemic we are seeing every now and then government is making the rule, but that rule will actually come into practice when the concerned government officer will act accordingly. Now we say that day before yesterday there was a rule made by Karnataka government ki if a person do not wear mask in the public places, 1000 rupees fine will be collected. Now the thing is that this become a rule, but it will become a practice, it will come into practice by the efforts of a government officer. So concerned RTO officer or other police officer or the officer who has been entrusted with this job has to come onto the road, has to check, or he has to go to the public places and check actually, and then he can make them to wear the mask and can collect the fine. So here a very big team is required for the government who can work for its implementation. But it is observed that in theory there are two objections for the growth of administrative. As I said, as and how the welfare mechanism, welfare measures of the government enhance, government is in need of many people. Government is in need of many employees, and to manage them we want administrative law. But as and how the administrative law started growing, there are two concepts which bring certain objections, hurdles in the way of growth of administrative. The first concept is of rule of law and the second is the doctrine of separation of power. So we have to see that how these two doctrines creates a hurdle in the way of growth of administrative law. Okay, no doubt in the initial constitutional law 1 classes I have explained these two concepts when I explained you about the article 13 judicial review. But that time, the view of our study was different. we studied to see that how the rule of law is there in India. So what is the concept? I told you that it is the Dicey who has brought this concept XYZ, how it is there in India. Then we see the Article 14, 15, 16 like that. Then we say the doctrine of separation of power is also there. Then I have told how that doctrine is developed and then say how it is applicable in India. And then we say in constitution itself how the power is divided between the central government and state government. And then how the power is divided between legislature, executive and judiciary in both the levels. So that is different. But here the same doctrines will study from the angle of administrative law. Now let us see about the history, how this concept of rule of law is developed. Rule of law, we say, is grown, as we say, why we have to study is because it has uh, it has worked as a kind of hurdle in the way of administrative. Now we observe that there is a growth of administrative law in European countries and also in America, but in England, to make government responsible, rule of law enforced. What they said, we don't require a separate administrative law, but we have a rule of law. Every person in England is below the law. And if one of the government employees is not doing certain thing, we will regulate him under rule of law, not under separate branch like administrative law. So we observe administrative law concept developed in European countries and America, but not much in England. This rule of law concept is derived from the French phrase "la principe de legalite," means principle of legality. That means government of law and not of men. Naturally, this is the what we say base of every democracy. When we say there is a democratic government, it means there is a principle of legality, means there is a government of law and not of the men. Now, according to Dicey, the rule of law is a dynamic concept, hence not capable of exact definition. What Dicey, he was the propounder actually of this concept, but he said it is so dynamic, means having different dimensions, cults, hence not able to give one single definition according to him. Now, same concept of rule of law is also known as natural law. In jurisprudence, we observe different people named it in different terms. Like Romans called the same law as just natural because for them just means law. Natural law means just natural here. Medievalist philosopher says it is a law of God, it is divine law. Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau found they called it as a social contract or natural, and modern world today call it as a rule of law. Now, in this semester, you are also studying the jurisprudence, so you come across all these terminologies there also. But in short, here we can say that the same law but called in a different terminology by different people in different nations. Then, in 1885, Dicey propounded concept of rule of law as absolute supremacy or predominance of regular law as opposed to the influence of arbitrary power and excludes the existence of arbitrariness of prerogatives, that is privileges or even wide discretionary authority on the part of the government. So what Dicey said, key rule of law is nothing but absolute supremacy. But supremacy of what? Supremacy of law. Law is above all. He says there is a predominance of regular law as opposed to the influence of arbitrary power. Any of the government officer may behave according to his own will and wish. That is not allowed. He has to behave, he has to work according to the rule of. It also excludes the existence of arbitrariness of privileges. It means some facilities we have given, but it doesn't mean they may misuse it, according to Dicey. What Dicey says, see, now being a, we have also studied in Article 14, exception to the rule of equality. Though political says ki all are equal before law and equal protection of law, irrespective of the caste, sex, religion, race, etc. But in practice, what we observe? In practice, we observe the people like MPs, MLAs, some higher police officer, when they move on the road, they are moving on the, red siren vehicle. Now, is it not the violation of rule of law? Then we may apparently feel ki yes, there is a violation, but we have seen how it can be justified. It can be justified because the people of that category, because of their nature of work, they have been given certain privileges. But okay, privileges they are given, use it, that is justifiable. But if they misuse it, that cannot be accepted. If a minister is moving on that siren light, what we say, red color vehicle for his personal private work, then we say it is not rule of law. It is against us. So that is not acceptable as a part of rule of law. So the wide discretionary on the part of authority on the part of government is also not accepted. It excludes and then it doesn't include. So that we have to remember. Rule of law includes that everyone is below the law, but in certain cases, certain privileges are given to these people, but that can be accepted provided they should not misuse their privileges or they should not misuse their discretionary powers. So that is what Dicey said. Coming to the experience in England about this concept, we observe in England there was only concept of rule of law but not the triad administrative. Whenever discretion comes, there is room for arbitrariness led to insecurity of freedom of the citizens. In the sense that whenever discretionary powers were used by the government, they used to use it according to their own will and wish, that is called as arbitrariness. And that led to the insecurity of freedoms of the citizens, naturalities, and equality of law before law was there in England, but they used to criticize the Droit administrative because there were no administrative courts in England. There is no any administrative law in England as such was there, so they used to criticize. They ignore the privileges and immunities enjoyed by the crown under the maxim king can do no wrong, and also the statute which conferred unchallengeable discretionary powers on executive. One side they said that there is a rule of law in England, and another side they themselves have given more power to the crown and accepted the maxim ki king can do no wrong. But how is it possible? If you want to say rule of law, then you say king can also do wrong. Because whether the thing done by king is right or wrong will be decided by whom? By the judiciary and under the law. That's why we say though rule of law was observed in England, it was not perfect in its implementation. In 1915, Dicey supported for separate existence of the administrative law when judicial and quasi-judicial duties conferred to officers in the England. See, Dicey initially not supported the administrative law, but later he supported for the separate existence for the administrative law because many of the judicial and quasi-judicial duties were given to the officers of England. See, today if we look at in India, we observe this collector. Collector is the executive officer, but he is sitting as a revenue judge. Andre avರಿಗೆ ಯಾವ್ದು ಕೊಟ್ರಿ decision making, you have given them as a quasi-judicial officers. So like that, lot of things are changing. So Dicey also changed his stance and supported for the administrative law. In 1921, Lord Hewart spoke about the new despotism, that is the rule of bureaucracy. He spoke saying that there is a rule of bureaucracy, means rule of the government employee. They only will be doing everything. And that's why they said a separate set of law is required. Then another person called as Donald Moore and his committee, which appointed to check misuse of power and lacunas in the administration in England. So it observed in England also the people and the authorities were suffering from the misuses of powers by the government authorities, and hence they appointed this committee for the study. Then in 1946, enactment of Statutory Instruments Act for making subordinate legislation, okay, has been made in the England Parliament. Then in 1961 they brought ombudsman. Ombudsman especially means Lokpal or Lokayukta, and you know what are their function? Their function is to check on the working capacity or the validity of the actions of the government. So regarding that, they have appointed 1960, 1961 ombudsman also, and they issue various writs and application of judicial review of administrative action also started in England. So it all said, though rule of law is there in England, slowly administrative law also started growing in England. Now let us see some of the advantages and disadvantages of the rule of law. Now, the advantage is that it is good to control undue power. It denotes absence of arbitrary power in the sense that arbitrary power will not at all be there. That is what we rule of law says. Then it denotes supremacy of court and judiciary controls administrative action. And then under common law system, executive must act under the law. They must act under the law only. Any executive do not have inherent powers, but their acts are subject to the judicial review. In the sense that the government officer cannot feel that I can do whatever I want. No, they are under the subject of the rule. They have to have some discipline. Otherwise, you know that we again have the writs of mandamus and other types for the rescue. When there are so many advantages of rule of law there, we also observe the disadvantages like it failed to develop administrative law till they fully suffered from the executive. That is the bad thing what we say observed in England. They waited for a much longer time. The executive department of the England developed to that extent, but they have not developed any administrative law, and because of which lot of sufferance taken place. So rule of law failed there, we can say, because all the answers were not there in rule of law. Absence of arbitrary as well as discretionary power is there. See, if we say under rule of law, there will be no arbitrary power, no discretionary power, there will be only rule of law, then it becomes very difficult to control the situation. See, imagine this during COVID pandemic. If the law says that the executive cannot do anything till the law is made only by the parliament, that is what the rule of says. Rule of law says that law has to be made first, and then what is the law made, that will be executed by the executive. That's all. If that was the truth, then imagine in COVID-19 how the law could have been framed. And when there were no law, how executives could have worked. Today we observe a lot of things were done by the executive, right from the President of India, Prime Minister, his council of ministers, then below the governor, chief minister, their council, and then all the government officers to the root level. Today they are doing so much depending on what? Depending on the discretionary powers. Discretionary means depending on the situation. As the situation comes, they have to take immediate action. They cannot say, no, we have to wait for the law. Law has to be made by this parliament. See, if this kind of answers we are getting from the government, they will not like that. And some certain percentage of discretionary power is required. But the powers should be discretionary, but they should not be arbitrarily influenced. Arbitrarily means, you know, that with a partiality we can say. No doubt today also we are listening. Sometimes we observe that government is doing partiality towards or favors towards one person, not towards another person. So that is arbitrary power. You can question it, no doubt. But totally denying the discretionary power in the name of rule of law is also not good. Okay. And another one drawback of the rule of law is that it criticizes the triad administrative. They criticize the administrative law, but the experience in England shows that administrative law is must in every democratic nation. So we say that rule of law is a objection, is a hurdle for the growth of administrative law. But we say that we need both. We need rule of law as well as administrative law. So that is what we can see today regarding this concept of administrative law. So with this, I will be ending with my presentation. If you have any doubts, will you please ask me tomorrow because the class will end by another 2 minutes. And please type your roll numbers in your respective groups. 5 years ದವರು ನಿಮ್ಮ group ನಾಗ type ಮಾಡ್ರಿ, 3 years ದವರು ನಿಮ್ಮ group ನಾಗ type ಮಾಡ್ರಿ. And in case of any queries, you can ask me tomorrow.